This time on The Real Generation Gap.
They have really normal family issues, and they go through a small story arc. There's character development, but it's not ridiculous, if that makes sense. It's real to me.
There was nothing racial about them.
Yeah.
Every family of every race has this.
Mm-hmm. Hello, welcome to The Real Generation Gap. My name is Shane Schuldmeyer.
I'm Fred Satilli.
And I'm special guest BJ Kang.
And today we are reviewing American Fiction. Before we dive into this review, please give us a thumbs up, hit that subscription button, and leave us a comment on what movies you think we should review next. Let's get into it. So when I first saw this movie poster, I looked at it and I thought, I would never watch this. To me, it looks like something like Tyler Perry would make, and I think that those movies are always very corny representations of black culture, which ironically is hilarious because that's what this movie is completely about, and I did not know that at all. And that kind of, sprung up the question, has black culture become a gimmick? What do you guys think?
Well, I kept thinking this is an anti-black movie where it's like not so much that they're trying to spin a narrative that it's like against black people, but just the narrative is about it's against the narratives about black people that are popular in Hollywood today. It's like this family are all very educated, very successful people.
Mm-hmm. They're all doctors.
Yeah, they're all doctors. And that's not the sort of family sort of black family you see a lot in like American cinema, or the ones that at least are the most popular. I've seen a lot of like black-led movies, like very prominent black cast movies, which is like, Boys in the Hood, 12 Years a Slave, Friday.
Which are all also great movies.
Yes, they are.
But it seems that it's always, they're the slave or they're the ghetto dude in the hood, and that's the stories we always have. And whenever it is those stories, I feel like it's always automatically a contender for the awards. Like, oh, he was so great in this slave
Oscar
movie.
bait.
Yeah.
Great.
And it's just like, because it's a slave movie or because it's about a black person going through whatever the black stereotype is, it's become a gimmick in my opinion. And that's kind of what I thought about this movie. It's like, oh, it looks like a gimmick. And so I think it's awesome that that's what this movie is about.
We love it.
What?
It is very,
Black?
yes, that's it. I'm happy you said it and not me.
Fred, what'd you think?
Well, the thing I liked most about it was it has almost an all-black cast. In fact, the white people that are in the movie are these pathetic wimps. They're these weird pandering, like, anything black is so cool, and we got to get rid of those kind of people. And I also don't like a movie that has a token black person. Like you'll see a movie in a white community with a white family, only the daughter has a black boyfriend, or the wife has an ex-husband who was a black guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They put that in there and it's like, oh my God. But this was a movie perfectly written, perfectly cast, perfectly acted, perfectly directed. I was really, really happy to see this movie. I didn't want to see it either necessarily. And our friend Rudy, he was the one who said, look, man, you got to go see this movie. And I'm like, if I have to. And I came out of there like shocked.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this story. And when I watch movies, I like to think of the character development. Where does the main character start? Where does he end? And I like this movie because I think it's really real in the sense that there's not always this grand character development. The main character kind of starts as an asshole, but in the end, he's still kind of a dick. And I think that's like real. It wasn't like some grand, like he becomes a better person or he frees his family from poverty or something crazy like that. It was just like this upper class family. They have really normal family issues and they go through a small story arc. There's character development, but it's not ridiculous, if that makes sense. It's real to me, and I like that a lot.
I like the fact that you use the word real, because this is a word that's thrown around a lot in the entire movie. They use words like raw, authentic, real, or like we need to tell true experiences and stories. When the whole time he's being his real self, he's a black man being his real self, and for some reason that's not real blackness. And it's just like he's going through this like whole conflict of like, what the hell does that even mean?
Editors, they want a black book.
They have one. I'm black, and it's my book.
Look at what they expect us to write.
Yo, Sharonda, where you be going in a hurry like that?
What do you think, Fred? Like,
Well, thanks for asking. Because This is a comment on society today in a whole. Everything that they said was real and raw and natural and all that stuff, that was all the stuff that was not real. The real guy was a dignified gentleman. He was an intellectual, an academic, and so were his families. They couldn't make any money being that.
And even
They
so,
had to
so
go
was
ghetto.
his competitor too. She was an intellectual as well.
Yeah, she was some university professor who wrote this crap, and it was commercial crap, and I love that. I love it that they brought out that, especially once again the white people, they're like, oh, this is so raw, this is so real, this is so edgy. It was like, this is all fiction. Black people are not like that.
I think that oftentimes the media uses race to divide us so we don't focus on the things that unite us.
Right, those secret societies.
Those secret societies are just class division or, economic division, but instead they want to keep us divided by things like race. And there's even other things, and it's like being gay is it's kind of a big proponent in the movie.
Right.
The brother is gay and he didn't want to come out to his family, and then his mom says really messed up stuff to him. And he had a good character arc. I liked his character arc the most, actually. And Rudy was even talking about it with me. And basically his character arc is the whole time he wants to just be accepted for who he is. And
yeah, no drama. He's not being style gay.
Yeah.
He's not putting on a big fairy show or something. He just happens to be a homosexual.
I still live in Tucson. What's wrong with Tucson?
There's one gay bar and it's full of college kids. One of them asked me if I was Tyler Perry.
I mean, Tyler Perry lives in Atlanta, right?
Fuck you.
So Sterling Brown is the name of the actor, and he's not gay. So he did a fantastic job. I really, every actor in this thing was so great.
Yeah, when I was he wants to be accepted by his family, and his mom calls him I knew you weren't a queer. She said something like that.
That's what she said.
And then they said the
She
dad
was the one that had the Alzheimer's.
Yeah, and they said the dad never accepted him. But in the end, spoiler alert, the maid was like, "Don't go anywhere. You're family." And then that's when he finally felt accepted and good. And that's all he ever wanted to hear from his family members. But yeah, that was a big part of the story, but it wasn't blatant in your face, over the top homosexuality. It was just, that's who he is.
I agree. The acting was phenomenal because the way that they approach the characters, the way that they portray the characters, the writing and the acting together is written with so much class, so much subtlety. It's yes, the brother is gay, and that's a pretty prominent thing that goes on in Black culture, but it's done with so much tact and not with a lot of fanfare and not making such a big deal out of it that's pandering or sort of putting it on a pedestal, that it comes off really realistic and believable. And
it's kind of an interesting juxtaposition. The writing doesn't have any ebonics in it. The ebonics are affected, right? So the guy who made the movie, everything is clean and classy and all that kind of stuff. And yet it's a movie about if you want to be successful in Black culture, especially with these white people, you have to be this degraded person.
Yeah, and that opened up some really cool scenes. I thought it was really cool when he was writing, but then the scene was being played out in front of him. I thought that was a really cool way to show that, to illustrate that.
Right. He was inventing the characters.
Yeah.
And
every now and then they check back with him, what do I do? Yeah, I thought that was a really cool way to illustrate, the
one
development.
character says, "Oh man, why did you write that? Why did you have to write that about me?" It's because that's what sells.
Yeah.
And there was an issue in the movie that was very near and dear to my heart, and that is affording to care for a parent on the decline.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a dignified gentleman. He's a college professor, and his mother is beginning to get dementia, and he can no longer care for her, and it's difficult for the family. His sister dies. His brother has got issues, got a divorce problem, and he's got to make money. He's got to make money to put her in the nursing home. He's too wealthy to get public assistance, and he's too poor to just afford it. So he has to do some cheap thing to drag in a whole bunch of cheap money really quick, take care of her. And so he decides to suck up his dignity and write a crap trash novel. And of course, the thing explodes in the charts, and he's making a fortune now. But just like in Dream Scenario, right? In Dream Scenario, the guy wanted to be acknowledged for his work, and he didn't want to be the pop culture guy. And this guy's the same way. He's like, I've written good books. No one will buy them. I wrote a crap book that everybody is buying.
Yeah, and I think, but the beginning of the point you were making, that Alzheimer's, it's super real. And right now I have an aunt on one side of my family and an uncle on my other side of my family, and they don't even recognize me anymore. And it's just really difficult to deal with as a nephew who I see them once or twice a year. I can't imagine dealing with it as a parent, and I know that it's becoming more common illness in our society. So I think that touching on that was really real, and
raw.
And raw it was.
And like that's what I really loved about this family struggle that they're going through. They're a black family, but the struggle that they're going through is not common to what you see in other movies. Like if you've ever seen the movie Fences, which is also a very good movie, the one with Denzel Washington, the family struggles they're going through is that there's an affair, they're poor, and things like that. They struggle with like racism, and that's fine. That's a real struggle that some families deal with. The problem becomes when you look at an authentic story and you see a formula, and then you think that you can just copy that formula to make money.
That's great writing. Yeah.
Yeah. Everything about this movie was top shelf. It was lacking for nothing. I came out with not one criticism. All the family problems that this family had, there was nothing racial about them.
Yeah.
Every family of every race has this. So
and there's like,
real relatable.
There's relationships between the siblings. You know, they don't all get along.
Right.
Which is super real. I know all about that. I thought that was, really cool. That they just, they didn't necessarily hate each other. They weren't the best of friends. It's just like people.
But they were trying.
Yeah.
They were trying.
Yeah. And there's some resolution to that at the end too, but kinda, which is nice.
And I especially love the ending because it's sort of unsatisfying. It sort of is not it doesn't have a clean wrap up, but that's kind of like how life really is sometimes. There's sometimes certain scenarios are not neatly wrapped up or are not satisfying, and that's a point that that Monk tries to make earlier in the movie, where he says you shouldn't be creating art simply to satisfy the people, because then you're not making art. And I thought the ending perfectly illustrated that.
My favorite part of the fantastic magic of this movie was that there were 3 endings. And that's a real exploration of the story then, right? So all these things happened, 90% of the story was there, and how's it going to end? Well, it could end this way. Or it could end this way. And then it's black screen.
Yeah.
You decide.
Yeah.
And that's really cool when something like that happens.
I thought that was a fun way to end it.
And you're right. The third ending really was the cliche that made every other cliche in the movie wrap up in a nice, tight little package.
Exactly.
And you want it that way? You want it that way? We give you that one.
Are you familiar with Jeffrey Wright's work, Fred? Is this the first thing you've seen?
We saw him in Asteroid City.
Yeah.
Right? But not overwhelmingly.
Okay.
I know who he is. I recognize him and everything like that. But I'm certainly haven't seen all of his stuff and a big fan. But apparently he's working a really lot, and he should be, because he's a fine actor.
Do you think this movie will be like noted in awards? And do you think it'll get the credibility that it deserves, or do you think it'll fall into not fall into the what the movie's about?
I sure would like it to be the success it deserves to be.
Yeah.
And one of the things I loved about it too, and I say this in so many of our things, look at Leslie Uggams. Look how beautiful she still is. I love it when that's the case. Right. She was a young girl, singer, actress, right?
Okay, I have no idea who she is.
She
looks like she's from something I've seen on Disney Channel. I can't remember.
Oh wow!
Right, she was a big star. She had hit records.
Okay.
Right, and look at her now. I mean, obviously she's aged, but look at those cheekbones. I mean, she's just.
Watch out, ladies. Fred goes for the cheekbones.
I'm telling, and of course she played her part spectacularly well, having dementia, and just her tiny hand motions and the way she's a little disoriented.
Yeah, it was like I was like, oh wow, that is my aunt. Like,
yeah.
I also thought it was really interesting the type of music they decided to choose, which was it was a jazz. It was real jazzy, And when it comes to other like black movies, like Black Panther, for example, there was a real hip hop trap beat, and to a lot of other African movies, they rely on using African American music to. When it comes to like race or even being in a culture, it's a spectrum of experience, and you shouldn't really be tethered down.
I hate that word, spectrum.
You shouldn't really be
a spectrum these days.
You shouldn't really be tethered down to like a set checklist or set attributes to, just be who you are and stuff like that.
Yeah, it wasn't a cheap written movie, cheap acted movie, and it wasn't a cheap soundtracked movie.
Exactly.
They put dignified soundtrack with a dignified movie. Seems perfect to me.
Yeah.
And there's nothing better when a soundtrack blends so well that you're not aware of it. That's when it's really cool.
But see,
If
I
you're
like
what's with these?
sometimes I like to be aware of it. Like sometimes it hits. Sometimes it gets you going. Like in the Iron Claw.
Oh yeah.
I thought that was so cool when that came in. Or like I'm thinking Django Unchained.
Oh yeah.
When I think
wow.
it's Tupac comes on, right? That when the first time he picks up a gun, Tupac comes on. I thought that it hit, but you notice it, but it worked.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Dramatic music is always phenomenal.
Yeah, but I also agree with you too. Sometimes that you shouldn't pay attention to it because it's supposed to be evoking some kind of emotion inside of you.
I have two issues with the movie. For one thing, the movie is great and it should be regarded as a great movie. It should not be regarded as a great black movie. I'm insulted by that. I'm insulted for them.
You're
They
insulted
did a
as a
great
white
job.
man.
What's that?
I said you're insulted by that as a
That
white
is so great. That is so great. Right? I'm insulted for them because they don't have what it takes to be insulted for themselves. Right? No.
I agree with you in the sense that that's what this movie's about. He just wants to be noted as a great writer, but I do think we need to acknowledge when it's our differences. Like there are black movies, there are Bollywood movies, there are Latino movies. And this is a black movie, and I think it needs to be acknowledged as a great black movie, but it can also be acknowledged as a great American movie.
I hate to see it pigeonholed that way. What do you think?
I think that probably ties why into like it's called American fiction, because we have that fixation on like this is black, this is Latino, this is white, and it's like, and the whole point is that he just wants to write a good fiction book, but all of a sudden it's becoming an identity, a book where it's tied to his identity, which I think that's why it's called American fiction, because only in America do we hyperfixate on identity so much like that.
The really masterpiece, he writes this ridiculous trash thing totally in ebonics. Every bad black cliche there can be is in there to the nth degree. And he gives it like a dignified title. I don't remember the original title that he gives it.
My Pathology.
Oh, okay.
Spelled wrong.
Yeah, spelled wrong.
Everybody, all the white people accept it. They go, "This is the greatest raw thing. You're a genius of literature."
We sold your book.
No.
We believe Mr. Lee has written a bestseller.
It's a joke. The most lucrative joke you've ever told.
And he decides to push it to the absolute limit. He goes, "You know what?
He wants it to fail. He's like pissed that he's getting success.
Right. He needs it to be a success, but he hates it. He's very conflicted.
Yeah.
He's very conflicted. And that conflict affects his relationship with the beautiful neighbor that he's trying to have a romantic relationship. So in the effort to sink the ship, finally with the last torpedo, he goes, "I'm changing the name of the book. I want to call it Fuck." And they're momentarily shocked. They're like, "Well, maybe if we spell it with a PH and everything." But it doesn't take them more than a minute. They say, "Well, let's think about it." He goes, "No, we're doing this or I'm out." Because he's being real gangster. He's acting. His persona as the writer is that he's like an escaped convict.
Yeah.
To add mojo to the story.
Now, is Stag a pseudonym?
Yeah. Mr. Lee can't use his real name.
Is this based on your actual life?
Yeah, you think some bitch-ass college boy can come up with that shit?
No, I don't.
And he says, "No, it's this is it or I'm out." And then they look at each other and go like, "It's genius. Why didn't we realize it right away? Of course
It's
that's
so
the name."
raw. It's in your face.
Right, it's in your face.
Yeah.
And so they decide to go with it. And of course, for him, it's like, oh my God, no matter how bad I make it, they're going to love it.
Yeah.
I think he has a really interesting. I think the scene between him and the competitor, though, when they start conflicting over his book, is really interesting, because it starts to show that yes, he has a point that we're pandering with a lot of trash, but we have to remember where that trash sometimes comes from. Is like a lot of this trash is a formula based off of real stories that that did happen. Like people did go through those struggles. And there's a part where he says that like, there's a part where she says, like, he points out, like, you wrote that book, but you didn't experience any of it. And she goes, do you think I only write books from, like, my experience? And then there's another part where his mom says, a genius is so lonely because they can't connect with the rest of us. And it's like his intellectualism, as smart as he is and as good points as he has, he's disconnected from everyone and to some part maybe even a little bit from his community because, you know, he's not really acknowledging that, yes, we're making a formula off of a lot of these stereotypical stories, but they do happen, and maybe there's space for both, you know?
So overall, Fred, is it a 10? What are you giving it?
I have to give it a 10. It's flawless.
Fred hands out the 10s.
You know something, Shane? I love movies. And when a movie is great, it's 100% great, 100%. I'm in love with it.
Yeah.
You know, if it's not
But
great...
when you just hand out the 10s, everything's a 10.
Well, I only pick great movies. You know, I didn't give it 10 to junk movies, right? We saw that weird romantic comedy thing that was, you know, like a 2. Yeah. So no, I'm not generous, but I am a lover.
BJ, what about you, man?
I admit I give it a 10 too. Okay. I really love this movie. I thought it was expertly crafted in my opinion, although definitely will be unappreciated.
Yeah. As a black movie, I give it. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. No, I give it. You know what? I'm gonna give it a 10. Why not? Perfect score.
You should.
Perfect score.
And this is and it's nice that we had a third because we don't have unity all the time. It was everybody thought this. I'm really proud of everybody involved with this whole thing. I think it's a masterpiece.
I think it's even more so a 10 because of what I thought it was. It's the exact opposite. It's a commentary on that, which made it awesome.
Right, a really happy surprise. Go ahead and give us the outro.
Cool. Thanks again for watching The Real Generation Gap. This has been a review of American Fiction. I'm Shane Schuldmeyer.
Fred Satilli.
And BJ Kang.
And we'll see you guys in the next one. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Leave us a comment what you think about this movie. Is black culture a gimmick? Is this the best black movie of the year? Is it just the best American movie of the year? Let us know what you think. We'll see you guys in the next one.